Brian and I are here today.
Absolutely. Hello.
With our friend and fellow business owner, entrepreneur, funny guy, comic reader, beer drinker.
Damn right.
Kyle Kornic.
Most important part.
I'm really into sours right now.
Sours.
Sessionable
Kyle Kornic
sours.
from
They're very
Brew
sessionable.
Wizards. Brew
Hello,
Wizards,
everyone.
downtown Oshawa.
And welcome to a couple minutes or hours of your life you're never going to get back.
Yeah, 100%.
We're gonna pick his brain.
It's going to be
We're
good.
gonna see what happens. So let's just get this started with Brian and I wrote down some pretty. Actually, Brian wrote down some pretty awesome questions. Do you want me to get them
So,
going, or you
I
want to
mean,
take them?
I've got it here on my phone. I mean, it's a real basic kind of interview question, but I think it's an important question as far as, leading and starting off the conversation. The idea for the cafe, like, walk through the paces of basically when you kind of get this idea and, you brought it to, some people and obviously it became a reality, but those initial steps of where you were like, when you saw that it wasn't
Why you
here or
decided
wasn't
you didn't want
present,
any more free time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why you want to get
100%.
rid of all your life.
What
Yeah.
exactly, like, what was that point in time where you were like, okay, I think this needs to be, a thing?
Do we include like the times like we were like basically laughed out of the bank? Because like, your business is
yeah,
going to
man,
crash.
that's
and burn.
the juice.
Or does that come later?
I mean,
That's the juice, man.
I think honestly, it
Sharesies.
starts with like it's the typical fucking thing. Like, did you fucking just wake up one day and think to yourself, "Oh my god, I need a cafe"? Like, what was the first time the seed had been planted?
Okay. So Brian and I have a history. We go back. You may not know that from just listening to the podcast, but Brian and I go back to basically when I was a teenager. We've been friends for years. I talk really fast. I apologize.
That's all right.
But
time.
we were
Slow it
working.
down.
I was out of school and I was working contract jobs, and I'm sure Chris can attest to how shitty contract jobs are.
Yeah.
So what happened was I got laid off on Halloween, basically. Right as like he would have the employer at the time would have had to hire me on as like a full-time person after my probationary contract period. So it was a Monday morning. I got the call and he's like, "Yeah, I didn't want to ruin your Halloween weekend, but we just don't have the work for you." I'm like, "That's fine. I kind of hated working there anyways." And so I called Brian and texted Brian. I'm like, "Yo, dude, I just got laid off. What do you want to do?" And we played Dungeons and Dragons every Monday night.
Yeah, it was
You
around
mean
there.
you didn't
yeah.
say we're going to go back and egg this guy? And
Absolutely.
No,
On
I was
Halloween.
like, you know
No,
what?
Different
Like,
Hell
time,
night,
different time.
man.
Polite. We're
it's not
polite
even
back
it's
then.
not even like worth the drive out to the place
Yeah.
to like still talk to one or two of the guys that work there. But yeah, so like we were getting together playing D&D, and it was myself, Patrick, and Brian. Brian at the time was very heavily touring with Black Hat Attack, so he was at home at the time, which was really cool. And we were sitting down in the basement. I think Brian went up to the kitchen for something, and Pat and I are just sitting there. And I know Pat at the time had also hated his job, and we're sitting there, and it was literally like, "I got laid off today. That sucks. Blah blah blah. Do you want to open a business?" Like Pat, I was sitting with Pat. I'm like, "Do you want to open a board games cafe?" Then Brian came down, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do it.
That's how
Let's
all
do
the
it." And
best
so we
businesses
started.
start.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where we were like, we were serious, but we didn't know how serious. And then we started writing a business plan and stuff like that. And then it just slowly came more and more to fruition. As I said, Brian was very, very busy with the band. So he came to us. He's like, "You know what, guys? I can't give this my all right now. Go ahead."
And it's one of those-
And Brian came up with the name.
Exactly.
Brian came up with the name Brew Wizards.
It's one of those things where it's like, I saw, two of my best friends putting in everything
Yeah.
into it, and I was putting in when I can, but we would be, I would be on tour for say a month. You miss a lot in a month, especially when you're cultivating a business,
Oh, yeah.
when you're going through those
Huge.
steps. And all of my money that I was making was tied up in visas, making sure I didn't starve on the road. So, I saw these guys putting in money and time and effort. And when I was home, I would kind of throw into the hat, and I would try to, be there and be present. And as the idea got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I kind of saw where absolutely everything was going, and I'm like, "Oh my god, like this is gonna fucking happen."
Yeah.
I just felt like I would be doing my friends a disservice.
I want out.
No, it wasn't.
No,
It wasn't a fear thing. It was just
yeah.
honestly, I remember it quite well. I kind of sat down. I was home at the time. I had met with the guys earlier in the week and obviously got caught up to speed as what had happened because I had just got off a huge tour we had done. And yeah, I just kind of thought like, I was real behind on what was happening and things.
Yeah.
And I just kind of gave my blessing and was like, look, you guys go, because I didn't want to
No,
hurt
it's a
that
smart
idea.
move.
And
It's
it was one of those things, right? Like I put my ego aside. I put my want to be involved aside
Yeah.
because I knew it was better. If you love something, let it go type
But
thing.
honestly, if you didn't do that, right,
Something
there
would have suffered.
Something would have suffered, and there'd probably be some form of resentment with somebody somewhere.
And
we're working our asses off while Brian's off in Florida having a great old time.
And I mean,
he's on the beach right now.
posting Instagram photos.
And I mean, at that point
Yeah.
in time, I mean, going back to that time,
yeah,
I mean, that touring was my entire life. We had just put out that new record, and we toured it for 2 years straight, completely just toured it everywhere and toured it super hard. I had poured everything I was into that record before the idea had gotten kicked off. So, I mean, I couldn't, something was going to have to suffer. I didn't want the band to suffer. I didn't want my friends to suffer. But, I felt like, like he says in Lord of the Rings, man, you sound like, you feel like too much butter spread out over toast, right? So I didn't want to.
Lord of the Rings.
That's right.
So
it's going to be full of them. We got a counter going.
You kind of sat there and went, okay, shit's getting serious now. Like you started looking for money. You
So what happened was,
how did you do that?
We had saw a spot on King Street, like 2 doors east of Level Drugs. It was one of the Level holdings, if you will, like 16 King Street. And we're looking at it, we're like, this is nice. So we brought Norm along because he at the time had been into renovations and he was a certified home inspector by that point. And he's like, cool. And so we got to talking like what it's going to take. We want us to help you. He's like, yeah, I want to help, blah, 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 like renovate this place. But then we had the conversation where he's like, hey guys, can I be one of the partners in this? At the time it was just Patrick and I and Brian. And Norm got involved, and Norm's was a real pusher. Like we got a lot of stuff done. So we started looking for money and all that because the plan got more serious. We finished the business plan and all that. But we went and we looked around. So we contacted a company that you always see internet advertisements for. They're called Futurepreneur. They're basically a Canada-wide government-backed and BDC-backed like entrepreneur program. I believe the age limit's like 19 to 30 something. You know what I mean? Like 19 to 30, 19 to 32.
Helping young people get there. Yeah.
Exactly. And like Sepe, the guy, it's really funny because they have an office in the GTA, but they assigned us to a guy in BC. So we were like working under his time. So he'd call us at like, 11 in the morning.
That's
11 in the morning his
sure.
time. It was like 2 in the afternoon for us. And he's like, hey, it was a good morning, guys. We're like, yeah, not quite.
I wonder the logic behind that.
Yeah. Like there wasn't, and he was surprised too. He's like, I don't know why they assigned me to you guys either. You're in Ontario.
What you want to hear from your rep. I don't know why I'm assigned to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was amazing. And we sent him our business plan and stuff like that we had worked on a lot. And he sent it back. He's like, this is amazing. Like, we're like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, adjust this, and this here. We're like, okay, cool. But he's like, I obviously can't send it because they also help mentor you as well. Okay. He's like, I obviously can't send this in to my higher ups without saying at least like, change this thing.
Right.
So he got back to us and he's like, and we're like, okay, let's start talking about the money. He's like, well, we offer up to this much from us and this much from the BDC. And it's just like interest-free loans. They start to accrue interest after like the first or second year. So you have time to pay them back interest-free. And he's like, it's really hard for us to give funding to restaurants and cap businesses like yours because they fail. Straight up, they fail. Yeah. Like within the first year and stuff like that. Generally, if you can make it out of the first year as a restaurant, cafe type business, or even, into your third year or whatever, you're doing really, really well compared to 90% of the other stuff. So he came back to us. He's like, I have some really great news, guys. He's like, we can't give you the full funding. And this is all like me. This is him calling me while I'm at like work at Best Buy. Because I ended up taking a position at Best Buy just to hold me over because I'm like, I don't want to start anything else in the PR field because I went to school for PR. And so I just backtracking to the Best Buy thing, like I came in and I'm like, I need a job, and they're like, we like you from like this rep work I had done with Samsung, and they fully took care of me. They gave me benefits, they gave me a good wage, like, and everything like that. So I'm like, I'll do this while I'm working on the business plan. And I was fully straight with my general manager. I'm like, listen, I'm working on this business plan, and I'm like, I'm not going to be here forever. He's like, that's fine, great. He worked around my schedule. It was awesome. And then so he calls us back. So he's like, I've got some really good news for you guys. We're like, oh yeah, awesome. He's like, so we can't give you the full funding because you're a restaurant, but you guys are the first business plan company we've looked at that we're actually giving you more than we've ever given your type of business before. And this is from Futurepreneur. We're like, oh, okay.
But why? So, sorry. What were you doing that was so kind of fucking star spangled awesome?
Naked pictures.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering, like, I'm curious. So Because you imagine, I mean, everybody goes through, anybody who generally starts a business will go through one of those programs. So it's like, I would be curious to know, did they mention at all what you were doing at the time to make that, that huge leap to give you the money?
Share your secret sauce.
Yeah.